Chair. The board meeting of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and its component units is now being called to order. Today's in-person meeting is also being held via video conference with the proceedings live streamed from the Port Authority website. On July 18th, the Audit Committee met in executive session. Earlier today, the Committee on Finance met in public session. The Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management met in public and executive sessions. The reports will be filed with the official minutes of today's board meeting. The Commissioners also met in executive session earlier today to discuss matters related to personnel or personnel procedures, matters involving ongoing negotiations or reviews of contracts or proposals, and matters related to the purchase, sale, or lease of real property where disclosure would affect the value thereof or the public interest. At this time, we ask for the Executive Director, Rick Cotton, the person of the hour, for his report. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, let me begin, as always, by thanking the employees of the Port Authority for their hard work and dedication. It is their efforts that enable the agency, through thick and thin, to deliver on its responsibilities. So I thank them, recognize them, express appreciation to them, and to the leaders of the 23 unions that represent 2/3 of our workforce. I want to begin by commenting on what you just heard from the CFO. The agency's overall operating financial performance, even in these difficult times, versus plan for the first 6 months of the year was strong. Versus budget, our results showed both higher than planned gross operating revenues and lower than planned operating expenses. And even though our revenues did contain about $30 million of non-recurring one-time revenue items, excluding those, the net result is still a net operating income above plan by 8%, or $75 million. The agency staff deserves great credit for the agency's financial performance through the first 6 months of 2022. I also want to comment on our airports. As summer travel has surged, passenger levels across our airports have approached pre-COVID levels. At the same time, the air travel system across the country and indeed across the world has struggled to emerge from the impacts of COVID-19. As the volume of air travelers has increased, air travelers have seen an increase in flight delays and cancellations. I want to report to the board that the Port Authority airports have taken multiple actions to provide support to travelers who are experiencing flight delays and cancellations. While the airports cannot address delays directly caused by pilot and other staffing shortages or weather delays that have particularly affected the Northeast, the airports have taken action. The Port Authority has increased staffing to directly address customer experience issues caused by flight cancellation and delays. Field supervisors who monitor airport terminal buildings, parking facilities, taxi dispatch, air train stations have all been augmented. Airport customer experience specialists have been increased at all of our terminals and at all of our airports. Airport terminal operators have increased their traffic attendance and their staffing on terminal frontages and across all of the terminal operations. Port Authority has also expanded staff at its airport operations centers at each of the airports so that during peak periods, immediate coordination and response can occur with respect to any incidents or with respect to any shifts in staffing that are needed. We will continue to cooperate with our partners to identify any way the airports can support their efforts to reduce delays and can support their efforts to address the issues, residual effects from COVID-19. Turning to the World Trade Center campus, 21 years after the September 11th attacks, the exterior of the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church and National Shrine was completed and marked by a consecration ceremony held earlier this month. The rebuilding of the World Trade Center campus has been a priority of the agency since the September 11th attacks, and the completion of the Greek church exterior and the substantial completion of the construction of the Perlman Performing Arts Center on the campus, reaching in the next 6 months, represent big steps forward in completing the campus. Turning now to an update in terms of our most recent activity numbers. At our airports for the week of July 18th to 24th, last week, Passenger volumes at the airports were at 88% of their pre-COVID July 2019 weekly average volumes, reflecting high summer travel volumes returning. This month, approximately 1/4 of the days not only have approached pre-COVID levels, but 1/4 of the days have been at least 90% of 2019 volumes, and on July 1st, they reached a level 7% above 2019 pre-COVID volumes, a new high post-COVID. At the bridges and tunnels for the week of July 8th to 24th, vehicular crossings at the 4 bridges and the 2 tunnels were at 97% of pre-COVID July 2019 averages. Truck traffic at our crossings has been significantly above pre-COVID levels, really since February of 2022, but on several days in July, that volume actually exceeded 2019 volumes by more than 20%. At the port for the month of June, volumes were an astonishing 41% higher than June 2019, continuing the seaport's strong performance. Finally, at PATH for the week of July 18th to 24th, PATH ridership was at 51% of the pre-COVID July 2019 weekly average. Ridership has continued to largely remain at roughly half of pre-COVID levels. The weekend performance has actually risen to between 80 and 90% of pre-COVID levels. With respect to the Port Authority workforce and COVID-19, in the past 30 days, 163 employees have reported positive results for COVID-19. And as of Friday, July 22nd, last Friday, there were 77 employees in quarantine, slightly down from 84 a month ago. There have been no employee hospitalizations in the past month, I'm pleased to report. Turning to good news, in particular for the agency, in the past 2 weeks, the agency has been honored with 2 important awards for our efforts in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and operational excellence. First, PATH was selected by the American Public Transportation Association to receive the 2022 Outstanding Public Transportation System Achievement Award in the category of systems providing more than 20 million annual passenger trips. In their selection for this honor, the APTA, the awarding organization, noted that the PATH Improvement Plan was an outstanding model of excellence and accomplishment that has greatly served public transportation. Second award, the Port Authority has been recognized by the New York Women's Chamber of Commerce with their MWBE Champion Award. The agency was chosen for our commitment to advancing minority and women-owned businesses and supporting small businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. This honor is a testament to the work of our procurement, community relations, and diversity, equity, and inclusion organizations, cooperating with all of our line departments for their commitment to fulfilling our priority of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I believe that the agency can be extremely proud of these recognitions, and I will again offer a thank you to the employees whose efforts have been recognized by these awards. I'm also pleased to share that on July 15th, the Port Authority Police Department graduated 10 students from its inaugural Youth Academy. The Youth Academy arose from the efforts of the Leadership Steering Committee on Race Dynamics and addressed a focus area for improving our relationship with the communities within which we operate. The Youth Academy program introduced high school seniors from local communities to the real-life training that Port Authority Police Department officers experience as part of their preparation to become officers, and is designed to build interest in careers in law enforcement and increase the future diversity of PAPD recruitment classes. Finally, a personnel matter. At the end of June, we welcomed Marco Bellardo as the new Director of the Audit Department within the Office of the Inspector General. Under Marco's supervision, the Audit Department will continue to evaluate and improve the agency's internal controls and risk management processes, providing independent and objective assurance to the agency and to the board and executive management that our operations are adequately controlled and carried out in compliance with professional auditing standards. With that, Mr. Chairman, I conclude my report.
Thank you very much, Rick. As we stated before, in August 14th, you'll be 5 years in. Hearing from our governor, it sounds like you just signed on for another 5 years. We thank you very much for that. And Rick, one of the things you talk about is it's about the employees. I think you've been pretty clear about that since day one. It's all about the employees and the mission statement of the Port Authority. And what I'd like to see, Rick, in September or October is start talking about the employees and celebrating some of those folks who have been here. Get this number, 4 decades. So we're going to pick for the first month those individuals who still work for the Port Authority who have 40 years or more. I think there's 23 of them. I'd like to invite them to the next port meeting and have all the commissioners congratulate them for their dedicated service. And maybe after that, we'll talk about the folks who've done 35 and 30. This is a life mission for all the employees. We want to keep it that way, keep it focused. But I think we have to properly recognize the employees who have dedicated their very lives for the things you just talked about, Rick. Job well
Mr.
done.
Chairman, I would just say we're at 5 years. I'm not sure that we can hit that milestone.
Probably not. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? All righty, excellent. At this time, we're going to provide an opportunity for the members of the public to comment on public Port Authority matters. The public comment period, which will be limited to 30 minutes in total, will provide an opportunity for members of the public to present their views directly to the board, but does not provide for a dialogue. Members of the public wishing to discuss a specific matter with the Port Authority staff are advised to contact our Public Affairs Department. Speakers are asked to comply with the fixed limit of 3 minutes.
Yes. Kevin Ronan, Nicholas Ronan, and Murray Bowden right now. She's updating the list. You've got a few people.
So Kevin, Nicholas, and, all right, great.
Get you the revised list of tasks.
First one is Kevin Ronan.
Testing.
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Ronan. Thank you for allowing me to speak in front of the board again. I was here last month. To remind everyone, I've been an employee of the Port Authority since August 15th, 2011, and have been a TWU Local 2001 member ever since. As stated from my last appearance, we are currently dealing with an ongoing labor dispute. Seeing how much of a fight this has been to finish this contract, might I ask, can we expect the same fight for the next contract or the next one after that? Can I expect the same combative and non-negotiation in good faith for the rest of my career? You claim to be an employer of choice. Is that true, or are they just buzzwords? The Port Authority is most certainly not an employer of choice for your represented staff and path. You have the power to end this labor dispute today if you so chose. Last month, my colleague, Mr. Sean Mayo, invited all of you to come to the negotiating table last month. You made absolutely zero effort or attempt to come to the table with us. Are you guys really negotiating in good faith? I mean, when you say that to the press, it's just simply not true. What your lawyer is doing is threatening our unions with, if you don't sign this contract, the last union to sign will have the worst one. You don't need to be a lawyer to know that that's bad faith. Speaking of which, let me quote a statement regarding retroactive pay from when the TWU's contract at the airport was settled. The Port Authority recognizes these wages are now being paid in a lump sum. Retroactive payments should have been paid to workers during the years that they were due. The Port Authority further recognizes the delay of 12 years in paying these employees those general wage increases do not measure up to the standard of just and fair treatment of its employees to which the agency aspires. Now, do you guys really believe that? Or are these just more buzzwords and noise? I want to close by mentioning ethics. Okay? My railroad coworkers and I have no contact with vendors, extremely limited contact with contractors, and would be the least likely of any division to enter a situation where any of that ethics class we were forced to take applies to any of us in that regard. Furthermore, noticing things that transpired on national news do indeed apply to members of this board. So, commissioners, is it ethical to berate and threaten police officers using your position as a Port Authority member? Is it ethical to hire a vendor to get things you need in an emergency and then stall and wait 6 months to pay that vendor? Mr. O'Toole, I read in the news an issue with allegedly using your position and power to keep your sister from becoming a police chief in Cedar Grove, New Jersey. Now, if that were me, I would be suspended indefinitely pending the results of an investigator general report. I have one more sentence to finish up. Pardon me.
Please finish.
Yes. Lastly, do you believe it's ethical to force your positions of power to hold dedicated workers out of their contract for 11 plus years? I think you all know the answer to that. Thank you for your time. I apologize for going over.
It's okay. Thank you, Kevin. Nicholas.
Hi,
Hi.
You gotta speak into the mic, buddy.
How old are you, Nicholas?
7. Hi, my name is Nicholas. My dad works for the PATH trains. His job is very dangerous. He has been hurt at work many times. He needed to go back and get a neck surgery after getting hurt at work. When I was 5, my dad caught in a tunnel fire and had to go to the hospital. Me and my mom did a video call to make sure he was okay. My dad's job is so dangerous that I'm really scared that he's not going to come home from work one night. One of my dad's friends was hit by a train and then he died from the virus right after he came back to work. He had 2 young kids that will never see their dad again. My dad has to work extra hours for us to be able to afford all the things that we need. Sometimes he won't come home for days when there are snowstorms and hurricanes. I really want to be able to spend more time with him. It's not fair to any of my dad's friends and their families that you won't come and give them the money that they work so hard for. You should take better care of your workers. Even I know that it's wrong to know what you are doing to them. Thank you.
Nicholas, you're amazing. Thank you very much for sharing that. And we very much care about your dad and we care about what you just said. Thank you very much. And Kevin, thank you.
Thank you.
Murray.
When you greet me, please say, glad to see you, and not, how are you? Because then I'll say, do you want me to tell you the truth or do you want me to lie? I'm failing. I'm making mistakes. And it's not nice. I learned a lot today, especially from Joe Manchin. He flipped last night. One can't get everything one wants when they want it. There needs to be compromise. I was prepared to come here and be very confrontational, but I learned that working together with people and taking part and building a constituency is better. But the governor also complimented the LaGuardia going forward, and I look forward to working with the Port Authority's traffic engineers to make the flow of traffic more realistic and better so that people can get to the airport and get back sooner. So I look forward to that. This young gentleman reminds me of my grandson about 20 years ago, who lived in Albany, came to the MTA board meetings and asked the board to create a Metro-North station at the Yankee Stadium. He was the first to say that. He's now 26, 27. He's got a nice job, graduated. But there are people at the MTA remember the day he was there and said that. And in fact, there is a Metro-North station at Yankee Stadium. And my grandson Daniel was the first to do it. This is all about global warming. By the way, I can't see the clock up there. It needs to be behind you. And I don't look.
Minute and 5 seconds, Murray. You're good. You got plenty of time.
I want to thank all of the people around this organization when I came here today, greeted me with such warmth and concern. And I made a drastic error before I got here. And I'm here because of the assistance of many people that helped me get to this meeting. Those are the kinds of mistakes that I am making. My watch is tracked in its own telephone number. My phone is tracked on its own telephone number. My car is tracked so that when I get lost and it's coming, my kids can find me. We made out a new will recently, and I gave it to my stepdaughter, who's my executor. It needs to be in her hands when I need it. The ability to make my life decisions about me needs to be in her hand, not in a lawyer's office, not in a safe deposit box. That was a revelation to me, to put the information that the people needed directly in their hands. And I thank everybody at the Port Authority who has taught me over the years. I could not have done it without the education of a lot of people here. Thank you.
Thank you, Murray. And Murray, thank your grandson for that vision 20 years ago. Really impressive. Todd Fine.
Hello. Yes, hi, I'm Todd Fine with the Coalition for 100% Affordable 5 World Trade Center. And I think I'd like to join Murray in this moment of compromise of Joe Manchin, because the Port Authority has an opportunity to compromise with every single elected official in Lower Manhattan. All of the candidates running for Congress, the state senator, the assembly member, the council member, even the mayor's office and the city planning don't want you to build a luxury building on hallowed ground where 2 firefighters died in a fire at the World Trade Center. We need a building that's responsive to the needs of this community. The Port Authority, the LMDC promised. People need to go back 20 years. Some of you guys may not have been on the board 20 years ago. There were so many listening sessions, so many activities where you promised this neighborhood would be mixed use for working class people. The Port Authority promised that, the LMDC promised that, but you've made a neighborhood where people are getting kicked out of their homes. 9/11 survivors cannot afford to live here. This area that you are responsible for, the World Trade Center, is becoming the most segregated part of New York City racially. It's becoming worse, and you are going to add fuel on the fire by building a luxury building for the super wealthy who live in this kind of mega complex. The World Trade Center was never supposed to be Hudson Yards. This is supposed to be a dynamic neighborhood for working class people, especially at 5 World Trade Center, where 2 firefighters died because of the negligence of LMDC in managing that demolition, which is you're also claiming property. Now, you have an opportunity to do something better. We have a study that we just released, our coalition, we hired a Pratt professor, Jared Delane, who shows that the ESD numbers on this of $1 billion subsidy for an affordable building are insane. They don't apply to real logic. These are numbers that Silverstein and Brookfield gave to the state, and the state just is just piddling around, not actually analyzing them. You can build an affordable building, maybe a little smaller, for a much less subsidy. A 60-story building, maybe $200 million subsidy, and if it has to be the 80-story mega building, we can still do it for cheaper than a Bills stadium. Let's say that. So we can make this happen, and you can do something that the world will be proud of, that the nation will be proud of, something worthy of the 9/11 experience, something worthy of these Port Authority workers who are also dying from the diseases and are 9/11 survivors and need to live in those type of buildings. That's what we need to do. And on top of this, you told us 2 years ago that if a residential building won, this would have to be a sale. Now you're saying it can be a lease, but I thought the 1921 charter said that you guys have to do transportation. You've been telling us for 20 years you can't be involved in a residential building. So you're going to bog all this down with another lawsuit that's going to take 5 years over you violating the plain ruling of your charter just to buck all of the elected officials? Let's make a compromise. If you put out an olive branch, there won't be lawsuit, there won't be conflict, and you can do something worthy of the nation. Please compromise Joe Manchin. Thank you.
I hope I didn't screw that up too badly.
I know it's Vittoria Fariello. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I am Vittoria Fariello. I'm a Democratic district leader down here in Lower Manhattan and a member of the Coalition for 100% Affordable 5 World Trade Center. We had the pleasure this morning of releasing a study that would show how we could actually make a building at 5 World Trade Center 100% affordable. So I'm here to ask that you don't approve any or grant any authority to move forward with the current plans which only call for 25% affordability. So many of our members are 9/11 survivors who have suffered from 9/11 diseases and have lost family members to 9/11 illnesses as well. And survivors were told that it was safe to be here, and now the survivors who were told that it was safe to be here are now suffering these horrible diseases and are dying because of the promise that we were told that we could come back and it would be safe. This is our last opportunity to give back to 9/11 survivors and first responders who sacrificed so much to help bring back our city and our country after these horrific terrorist attacks. As Todd was saying, this is truly an opportunity to show the world that we can do something special and unique. And I ask that you consider this and please make sure that we don't move forward with any plans until we have seen and really analyzed and studied and understand the true possibilities of bringing affordability, true affordability, 100% affordability to 5 World Trade Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Ma James.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today, dear board members. I'm a 9/11 survivor, mother of 3 survivors, daughter of a deceased parent who lost his life to a 9/11 related disease, and daughter of a stage 4 9/11 related cancer survivor who ironically worked at Deutsche Bank, which is the current site of 5 World Trade Center. I'm also possibly the only Black lifelong resident of this part of Lower Manhattan, Community Board 1, where the site is located, having moved here in September or October of 1971. Excuse me. I'm further of Cherokee, Catawba, and presumably African descent and ethnicity. As of the 2020 U.S. Census, CB1, this area that comprises the Financial District, Tribeca, Battery Park City, Seaport, and the Civic Center, is 70% white, having grown richer and whiter since the 2010 census. These are U.S. official stats. We are now, in this neighborhood, only 4% Black and a mere 1% Indigenous. We cannot afford to miss this opportunity to desegregate CB1 and to honor the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits segregation of public land. We also must honor the many lost or health impacted by 9/11. I'm here today to ask you, as a private citizen, that you please not enter any initial contract agreement with any particular developer at this time, as that would restrict the ability to create 100% affordable housing at 5 World Trade Center. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jim, we have any other recorded statements?
That's all.
Great. Thank you very much. We're now going to proceed with voting on items being considered today. Each of the respective committee chairs will provide a brief report prior to each of the matters being considered today. As chair of the Committee on Operations, I'll now present 2 items under the committee's purview. The first item, I recommend the board approve a collective bargaining agreement with the Railway Independent Transit Union, which includes 170 PATH employees who inspect and repair rail cars. This agreement was ratified by the union members on July 22nd, 2022. Prior to making a motion, I ask the corporate secretary if there's any recusals.
There are no recusals.
Any questions or comments? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen? Yes. Commissioner Eve?
Yeah.
Commissioner Horwitz?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinotti?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Menendez?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Votes carry. For our next item on the agenda, I recommend the board approve a collective bargaining agreement with the Brotherhood of Railway Signalmen, which represents 60 PATH employees who inspect and maintain the railroad signal system and perform related tasks. The agreement was ratified by the union members on July 19th, 2022. Prior to making a motion, I ask for any recusals.
Commissioner Menendez is recused.
Okay, any comments or questions? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen? Yes. Commissioner Eve? Yeah. Commissioner Horwitz?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinotti?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
Motion's approved. With that, 6 of the 11 PATH unions have ratified. 66% of the PATH employees are now under contract. And to you, Kevin, we want to resolve the rest. We are committed to doing so. In fairness, we are committed to getting to the table and making sure that the other 33%, the other 5 of 11, get done. You deserve it. We now call the Vice Chair, Jeff Linford, to provide his report on behalf of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chair of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management, I will now report on 4 items. The first 2 items cover storm resilience project for the PATH rail system. The first item would reauthorize a project to install an automatic flood barrier to protect PATH's rail car maintenance facility in Harrison, New Jersey, at a total cost of $31.1 million. This reflects a $3.9 million increase, of which 90% would be funded by a Federal Transit Administration grant. This increase is attributable to unforeseen site conditions that extended the project's schedule. Prior to making a motion on this item, I asked the Corporate Secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are no recusals.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
So moved.
Can I have a second? I now request the Corporate Secretary to call the roll for voting on the item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen? Yes. Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinotti?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Menendez? Yes. Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
As the votes are in order, this item is approved. The next item would reauthorize a project for the construction of a concrete seawall to protect rail track along portions of PATH's right-of-way in Harrison, New Jersey, at a total cost of $42.9 million. This reflects a $3.3 million increase to the project cost, and 90% would be funded by the Federal Transit Administration grant. This increase is attributable to unforeseen field conditions that extended the project schedule and associated incremental soft costs. Prior to making a motion on this item, I ask the Corporate Secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are no recusals.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have a question or comment on this item? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
So moved.
May I have a second? Thank you. I now request the Corporate Secretary to call the roll for voting on this item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinotti?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Menendez? Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
As the votes are in order, this item is approved. The next item reauthorizes a project to replace PATH's substation number 2 in Jersey City, New Jersey, at a total project cost of $276.1 million. This reflects a project increase of $59.9 million. The item also authorizes the award of a contract to Yonkers Contracting Company to construct the project at an estimated construction cost of $151.2 million, which is included in the total project amount. The main driver for the increase is higher than anticipated bids that reflect complexities associated with constructing the project, inflationary factors since our estimates were developed in 2018, and post-COVID pandemic market conditions. The increase will also accommodate higher soft costs, which are driven by the higher hard costs. Prior to making a motion on this item, I ask the Corporate Secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are no recusals.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Thank you. I now request the Corporate Secretary to call the roll for voting on the item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen? Yes. Commissioner Eve? Commissioner Horwitz?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinotti?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Menendez? Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado.
Yes.
As the votes are in order, this item is approved. The last item authorizes a $27.8 million project to implement near-term priority repairs to the parking level truss system in the south wing of the Port Authority bus terminal. Prior to making a motion on this item, I ask the corporate secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are no recusals.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
Second.
May I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you. I now request the corporate secretary to call the roll for voting on this item.
Chairman O'Toole,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen,
Yes.
Commissioner Eve,
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz,
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinotti,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Menendez, Commissioner Richardson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado.
As the votes are in order, this item is approved, and I turn it back to our chairman.
Thank you very much. There being no further business, before we adjourn, Nicholas, we want to thank you for coming out and being heard. Your voice matters. Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting's now adjourned. We'll see you in September.